that we're doing this session because I'm excited. There's a lot that has happened since the last time we did things, but let me share what this is about. We called it the winners under the spotlight, and I'm sure everybody's wondering what winners, where did they compete, what was the winning amount, and things like that. But so I'm here with the good deeds. So essentially, we organized the 60 days with yeah, I was somehow hearing my voice, and yeah, so it's good. Essentially, we organize a 60 days of code program focusing on Polkadot, which many of you already know about. But for those who do not know about it, it's a layer zero interoperability protocol designed specifically for specialized layer one blockchains called parachains. And it's the whole project is by none other than Gavin Wood, and we've previously seen him presenting the world supercomputer, which everybody knows as Ethereum. So he's had multiple successes, but this one we were absolutely excited about. We were following the project since quite a while, specifically since 2019, since all of the major developments started getting stitched together. So we decided to reach out to the foundation and essentially organize a program for developers and builders in our community. We had a lovely audience or participation from about 250 developers and builders. About 100 of them ended up finishing the program, which was, as I mentioned, 60-day marathon. So essentially we saw 23 projects being built and pitched at the end, for what we call the demo day. And it was very difficult to judge and narrow down to the top three startups. And essentially we had four teams, uh, two each tying for the first two spots. So we were very excited that we had such an exciting set of businesses coming out of the program, young but very promising. So most of these teams started very early. Mostly probably the same month as we started the developer boot camp. So essentially we're going to today make it about them because they hustled through, they brought light to some of the amazing innovation. And with that note, let me welcome Aditya from Reputex. Aditya, welcome. I'm glad to, I've known you for a bit now, but I'm glad to
Yeah,
see what you're building.
same. Yeah, I'm really happy to be part of this session. And on the whole, before we even get started, I already want to thank Blockchain India for the beautiful bootcamp that we're doing such sessions and kind of trying to encourage other people also to get into this space, which is what we always kind of look forward for.
Let's bring in our second winners, Himanshu and Abhishek. I think we're gonna get into what they're building, but essentially it's in the security domain. Security is something that the moment I hear it, I feel like in the Web3 space, it is core, because we all go through such teethering scams. There are such pressing problems, and I feel like this is it. Secured dApp is something that's going to be super impactful for everyone building in this space, everyone participating in this space. Welcome, Himanshu and Abhishek.
Thank you, Akshay. Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, you're perfectly audible.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on call. And I have Himanshu with me. And hi to Aditya. We are looking forward to it. And what all we learned and how we did it is something that we will be revealing. But overall journey, I can say that it was amazing. And the support that we got from your team and especially from all the folks who had working very closely with us during that was an amazing experience.
Yeah, I'm sure. I was almost seeing them compete themselves is what I was seeing, right? They were excited about every single day. I was seeing them. I know they pushed you all quite hard in between the program, supported, nudged. So there were days they were using different kind of tactics as per how what you needed. So that was wonderful to see. But Himanshu, welcome into the conversation. Very, very nice Goa beachy vibe background. Or I think it's more the pool is the focus. So I was in a villa that looked like that.
Nice, nice. Yeah, welcome. Sorry. Thanks for invitation. Yeah, happy to be here.
Lovely. Hey, this is an opportune moment for all of us to learn about what has your background been and why did you choose to come into the blockchain space. I would love to learn about one, your background and experience, and two, what makes the world of blockchain and cryptocurrencies exciting for you.
Sure, sure. So, just to give a short, description of my background. So, before blockchain, I was into full stack development, but with blockchain, I initially got into the investment side. So, I started with the trading part, and to learn
Lovely.
trading, I go into each project details. So, what does that coin do, right? What's
Hmm.
the vision of that project? So, when I got so much interested in each project on each token, then after 1 year of trading, I started the development on the blockchain side. And since initially I was into coding, so blockchain was that comes naturally on it. Yeah. So
Absolutely. But a developer
right.
coming in from a trading perspective first, it's such a good thing to hear about.
Right, right. And once entering into the ecosystem, we learn so much. There's so much new learnings. Every day you heard about some, new things coming up, new R&Ds, new extra features, new blockchains are coming up. So it's, it really excites me to, work on it, understand it, and, implement those into practical use cases and bring them to, masses and all.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's no dull day in crypto. This
Right.
is, I've been in the space for almost about 8 years now, and trust me, I have never been as absent in my social life. I used to be I used to totally be a social butterfly, but now since the last 8 years, all my friends have that one trouble that I think blockchain and cryptocurrencies have become the best friend, and everybody else is sort of gone away. But Abhishek, tell me about yourself. What's your background like, and what brought you to this space?
So my journey started almost 2 years back. I was heading a marketing for a brand, and for the India business. And wherever I used to go, there always used to be one or two questions pertaining to blockchain and Web3 space. And I have been into marketing last 15 years. I have been heading and the growth at the marketing for few of India's best startups.
Uh-huh.
And that's where I was thinking that okay, they should take up more question pertaining to marketing, growth, automation. How come this Web3 question is coming every time? And that was one of the trigger that came. And when I was doing a bit of research, it just pushed me that oh, it's completely decentralized. There are multiple benefits, and while I was doing my research, I happened to come across with Himanshu, and then we figured out the problem statement. Still, by that time, we had not started. We were thinking on some problem statement. What are the problems? And then we realized that okay, there is a space everywhere. There is a scope to build, but the two problem that triggered us to start was almost everybody is building, but no one is going for security, or they are not even thinking about security. I'm not denying the fact that there are some projects which are audited and secured, but there are close to 90% of the projects that were not secured. And that was one of the trigger that, oh, that's the space. And then we wanted to get into a space in such a way that why are this project not secured? Then we figured out that it's even interesting. The cost of audit is more. A, the
Hmm.
audit is completely a manual process. B, so can we do something here? Can we build a product to do the audit? Can we bring the AI aspect to it? And that's where me and Himanshu teamed up, and it's been from there. It has been a journey. Now we are a team of about 15, 16 people, and we have been building from. So I don't know what more to add, but I'll take up the questions once you come up with specific questions.
It's interesting that you mentioned AI into this conversation, because I think everybody uh, on earth these days, I think the past 1 year has been about AI. So I'm sure you've pulled in some eyeballs by just saying that. But I believe it was 2017 when I saw a lot of marketeers just come to, our events are generally very deep into technology, right? And we saw them come into our events and be excited about understanding the space. And I think that was just because that the world was trying to, everybody was speaking the language of cryptocurrencies, right? That's how the strong pull sort of gets people attracted. So I can totally understand from where you also got pulled in. And also, I think it's quite a challenge when you're trying to bring all of the marketing magic to a boring subject as security, because we're all geeks out here, but not a lot of people out there like to talk about security too much, right? It just seems something that's too deep and knowledgeable and insightful. And I think that's what blockchains were about, pre 2017 era.
Absolutely, Akshay, you are correct, bang on.
Hey Aditya, I think this is a wonderful time. I've always been fond of you. I think you have this brilliant way to articulate things. You're very young. I think this is my introduction for you. But again, bring some light as to what your background has been, and what are you working on, because I seem to not get enough of it. Every time I hear there's something magical happening.
Thanks a lot, Akshay, for that lovely kind of intro. I'm actually, because I have a funny little story about how I actually got into blockchain. So
Hmm.
this was back in my first year of engineering itself, right? Like somebody tried explaining what gas prices are, and I was
Hmm.
completely at loss. I'm like, bro, this blockchain thing is not my cup of tea. I'm really sorry. I'm still starting out my development journey. I cannot deal with something so complicated. I was actually talking about the this exact same thing to one of my
Hmm.
super seniors who was like a really good friend. His name is actually also Aditya, coincidentally. So just kind of discussing this, and he was kind of deep into AI and ML. Like he had done a lot
Hmm.
of projects and he had actually built things that got published and all of that. So he was really deep into it. I was trying to get some info on that. Oddly
Hmm.
enough, the lockdown happened right then, and then he sent me this small link saying that, hey, I know we spoke about blockchain and how we both don't understand it much, but this is a nice little boot camp happening where you might understand a little bit more. This was actually back in 2020 when Blockvigil, the people behind
Uh-huh.
Matic Vigil, they were
Uh-huh.
conducting a small boot camp. So I ended up being a part of that, and that actually triggered it. So always find it hilarious how like a kind of AI super senior of mine was deep into that, ended up triggering a butterfly effect of me in space and getting so deep into it. So something I always kind of chuckle when I think about. But yeah, that triggered it. I feel like I was quite lucky too, because that was inflection point not just for me as a developer learning something new, but I think for the entire Web3 space it was an inflection point when this whole DeFi summer 2020 became a thing, right? Like a lot of projects started doing this
Absolutely.
arbitrage. A lot of these
Mhm.
swaps were like being happened. We even saw this whole what it was called vampire attack
Yeah.
that was happening over there. I think it was the same, like kind of learn and understand. So I was like I got some basic understanding, and then everyone suddenly were in the space who were willing to teach me. So it was a beautiful like kind of inflection point for me, and I feel like boot camps do that to you. That was the first boot camp. The Blockchain India one became the second one. I feel like it's going to be the same thing. There was such a wonderful community. It seems like it's going to be another inflection point, a new ecosystem of Polkadot to enter, and yeah, lots to learn and grow.
Hey, Aditya, love the excitement. But before we get into more things blockchain, I would love to understand where you really are, because I
Sure.
just can't stop wondering, what is the background like? You seem to be in a car where in the
Yep.
background there seems to be lovely weather.
Yep. Actually, we were moving, but then like we just decided if I'm constantly moving, I might not get good network. We found a good spot where the
Uh-huh.
network was strong. We just parked here, and then like let's. This session is more important, man. We can't miss out on that. So decided to just like park here and join in. Like you said, beautiful weather. I'd be even more happy if I had like a nice cup of chai in my hands. But then, hey, you know what? This is still good.
Lovely. I think Bangalore has that to offer. I think that's the secret to a lot of entrepreneurs making it big, because the weather is always nice, and it just acts as fuel for a lot of the hustle that you want to bring in. But hey, I think for all of you, let's keep this a free flowing conversation. I'd love to understand things from your perspectives. As I said, this session is about you all. You've put in the hard work, and I think the journey's just gotten started. But still, I feel, the 60 days marathon, it seems quite exhausting for each and every participant, because you're learning as well as building, right, at the same time. So, what was the experience like for you all? I would love to start with that question. Just share your perspectives. What was it? Was it exhausting? Was it easy? What was it like?
Yeah, so I think it was a very interesting journey that we have. So I belong to the EVM ecosystem initially.
Lovely.
So I have the expertise into that. Then I started exploring other chains. So Polkadot is one of the major player, as we know, due
Mhm.
to what we can say is cross chain interoperability, and we have governance. We have different para chains, and we have lots of benefits over the other ecosystem, although they are also catching up, but we have the inbuilt those features. So that's why I was
Absolutely.
very much interested in the Polkadot ecosystem, and to work on that, and develop some practical use cases onto that. So
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I was following a few projects, right? So, for example, Aeon Network, Polkadot, Cosmos, and there was obviously a need for interoperability, but the way Polkadot did it, it just seemed like it was a holistic approach to build things from the ground up, where you saw not only basic facets like sharding or on-chain governance being a part of the core concept, but reimagination of the infrastructure layer for building internet on top of it. So essentially, where we saw layer one blockchains competing, did not have any communication layer between themselves. Most of the interoperability seeming like to have gone within an ecosystem on layer twos. Polkadot came in just at the right time, with a working solution where those parachains connected beautifully to each other. There was the I would say ingenious use of bridges to connect the two. But then there were parachains like Moonbeam that was connecting liquidity across other blockchains. There was the Ink smart contracts that was brought in by another parachain team. So it just seemed like there was an ecosystem that was getting built holistically, where everybody was sort of adding different things, different kind of flavors to the mix, right? So I completely feel you, Himanshu, when you said Polkadot is the major player in this space. I believe when I first learned about it in the Polkadot, in the Web3 Foundation HQ in Switzerland, I was mind blown. I was like, we're definitely getting to a solution. It took a while, but when it happened, it happened like how, right? There are about 200 projects already building in the ecosystem, and it's fairly early for interoperability to kick in, right? There's only a few potential solutions to that, and Polkadot sort of seems to have answered a core piece for the whole ecosystem to flourish. Abhishek, I'd love to learn your perspective. What were the kind of highs and lows that you went through? How did you find Polkadot? Because I think that's quite different from what you might have learned as a marketeer about the Web3 ecosystem.
So it's interesting. While Himanshu was working on the product, we used to had a discussion around what exactly is cooking up and what are the challenges that we are facing with the Polkadot.
Uh-huh.
And to our surprise, the challenges were uh, very less than what we were expecting, because
Mhm.
it was always giving us or pushing us to the boundary to learn more, to code more, to understand the ecosystem. And
Mm-hmm.
at some point of time, we felt that there are three important points that Polkadot offered us. A,
Uh-huh.
it was scalability. While interoperability was in picture, it was the number of transactions that could be done,
Mm-hmm.
that was immense. And we thought that, oh, this is the like some time back you mentioned about Moonbeam.
Uh-huh.
And we also figured out, and this is one of the parachain that we are considering to deploy our project. Okay.
Lovely.
So scalability, and in terms of the number of transactions that it can offer, we were
Mhm.
taking that, okay, this is the ecosystem that we should definitely be a part of. B, we also figured out that a security aspect, because that is where we come from. Polkadot has its own ecosystem which supports security, and in fact, it is very difficult for hackers to get into it.
Uh-huh.
Having said that, we thought that this is the space, and if there are any new project coming, they should definitely tie out a AI powered vulnerability detection application. And if not we, who else? Because we coming from like Himanshu has got about close to 4 5 years of blockchain and web3 experience. He is like the man when it comes to creating smart contracts. We,
Uh-huh.
okay, now creating smart contract auditing is fine. Okay, how can we bring the element of AI? How can we train the module to detect the vulnerabilities on its own? So that is where we started kicking in. So our first product itself, which is called Solidity Shield, it is an AI powered vulnerability detection application. Now in future, in our roadmap, we thought that let us add one more element. How can we do that on time, on chain? Like if there is somebody who's trying to hack your project, how can we detect and give a trigger to the project owner that, oh, there is something suspicious happening? So that would
Mm-hmm.
be Solidity Shield Plus. We are working on it, and I think there is no other better option than being a part of Polkadot to 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 use this. And Moonbeam is one of the parachain that we are talking. We will be in future, we are going to talk to a few more, and we'll see how we can integrate, how can we bring the Rust element and all into it. So these are few things that we had. We were very exciting, and the challenges also were around it only. So uh, in the life of a developer, like there is no end. Every day you feel like your code is perfect, and only when you realize that it has a bugs, you feel like, okay, let me sort this out, and I should not be touching it again.
Interesting, interesting. I think I come from a development background myself, so I can totally relate to that world. One famous thing that I think I was mentioning to Aditya or another participant during the presentations was that there has been no time when I've tried to demo a new product and it hasn't stopped working. Yeah. So I think those bugs, those failures are real, and I think you're exactly there to support
That's
developers.
interesting, Aditya. Then how do you tackle that? It happens to us also, and on the spot you have to tackle it. Like you are demonstrating a product, and somewhere you feel that, oh man, this is not done, and how do you cover it up?
Hey, at that point, your reputation and credibility comes into play. Trust me, I have had to swing things a lot, but mostly, I think I've barely gotten alive out of those demo sessions. And I don't even understand. Like it's like right after your time slot that you had, it starts working again, right? So it's kind of like that moment where you have to get embarrassed. But again, from the builder's perspective, I think all's fair because you're trying to innovate, you're trying to build something new, and I think solutions like yourselves, give a lot of advantage because they help in identifying not only bugs that are superficial, but if once the applications are really live. I think in the world of where internet is not only of information but also of value, where real money is connected to your applications, I think it can mean a lot, right? Just a vulnerability can be used to transfer or steal a lot of money. And we have seen that happen to the tunes of
In fact, one vulnerability can cause a damage. Like the hackers can find out, and through that they can get into your project.
Exactly. I've seen that happen countless times with friends.
Absolutely.
And so I completely believe the direction that you're building in is super relevant. Hey, Aditya, I can't keep you silent for too long. So, I would love to learn about your development experience, but not just that. Also, I think there were a lot of live sessions, there were content of different formats. You got to interface with a lot of ecosystem members of Polkadot, and you've
Yep.
dabbled around with a few other blockchains as well. So would love to understand
True.
your experience interacting with with one code, but to also the ecosystem that came to support you all.
Definitely. I mean, uh, so many things to talk about there actually. Like talking about the sessions by itself, right? I think that's worth diving into.
Uh-huh.
That's the best part about a boot camp, right? Like usually, like let's take an example of a standalone kind of session, like a hands-on workshop that happens once and never happens again. So you kind of there's a little bit of, I'm not sure if FOMO is the right word, but there's a bit of anxiety that you need to kind of get the grasp of everything at once,
Uh-huh.
because if you don't, then like it's a bit at loss, right? Like because they're there for that session, they're for like an hour or so, maybe an hour and a half at most.
Uh-huh.
But like when you have a boot camp, because you have that kind of like reassurance that, hey, all right, even if I miss out here, I know on the Discord I can ask some questions,
Uh-huh.
or maybe I can reach out in some other way. Perhaps the next session somebody else might be able to help out with this. And it could also be that today I understand everything. Tomorrow I'm some grappling with some random question that I feel all confused about.
Uh-huh.
Right? Like that also happens too. It's not the same day that you get a question. The kind of point I'm highlighting is mixed content in a boot camp, which you have like resources plus videos plus a live session, discussions,
Mhm.
kind of being able to have this Q&A being answered. that's that's the best way to get into any kind of ecosystem. And Polkadot is like, this is the best segue to, like, for anyone who's looking at it,
Mhm.
because you have multiple options and there's a lot of reassurance. So it's not about like, hey, you need to get this done this time period. You can take your time. Let's say week 1 is your most challenging week. You can take up till week 2 to kind of get hands on with it, and then the recordings are always there. Spend some extra time. Maybe so happens that week 2 you're unavailable. You can come back, watch it later. I was able to do that too. Like I know I missed few sessions which I
Uh-huh.
felt like bummed out about, but I was able to go back and watch those videos, kind of catch up on that. That
Mhm.
was amazing. First, if I had to point out, I think Sean from Substrate team or Parity team, if I'm not wrong, sorry, kind of took a session, right, like where he kind of delved deep into being able to update a blockchain on the go. Like that's so cool, because that's not something that's available in any other ecosystem.
Uh-huh.
Polkadot is the one where you can literally use Wasm, and on the fly, literally on the fly, you are able to can completely change a blockchain's in architecture, like what the purpose is, and that's quite necessary. I think there was this brief conversation we had about security.
Mhm.
You might not find a vulnerability today or like 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, but a while later, right? Like there's even this concept called time attack.
Uh-huh.
A time attack when you realize there's a vulnerability in the future. This gives you that option to be able to like go and change that. That was a big revelation for me, because I never thought that was possible in a blockchain, because I worked mostly in the Ethereum, EVM part. I really didn't think that was possible. That was a big revelation. And plus, I had a few questions which Sean wonderfully answered. I was kind of more interested in the Ethereum part, and he answered that really well and gave a clear understanding. And that was kind of like awesome. If I'm not wrong, plus I had to mention, Polkadot has their own forums,
Yeah,
which has a lot of content. All the questions are already answered. So
absolutely.
I asked a few questions. I didn't have to ask them because people have already answered them and asked them before me.
Yeah.
So that was awesome too.
No, I actually was even suggesting like a chat GPT sort of data bank that I think can be referred to at least for those questions for anyone new that's coming in. And then we saw someone build that within our boot camp. So I think that direction is super powerful as well. Hey, but Aditya, I think that is some coming from from the EVM ecosystem is also common with Himanshu. So Himanshu would love to learn, was this experience same as Aditya's when you were learning about Polkadot?
So since I have I have worked on multiple projects on EVM, so we have gone into the major complex upgradation patterns and all. So that's possible, but in Polkadot it's comes much easier, right?
Uh-huh.
You don't have to go into much complexity to achieve that thing, which would be
Absolutely.
seamlessly upgrade those services seamlessly. So that's the
Uh-huh.
benefit we get from in Polkadot ecosystem, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. And do you see, the parachains coming together beautifully, offering things?
Right. That's the main thing. Other chains are catching up. Now you are getting super nets, different blockchains, layer two, which are connected through a relayer. They are coming
Uh-huh.
up in all the ecosystem. You go to Polygon ecosystem, they are coming up. They are launching their CDK, right? Chain development kits and
Yeah.
all. In ICP, we already have those kind of super nets.
Yeah.
So everyone is coming up with those with some extra modular features, right?
Yeah.
We have inbuilt in Polkadot, we have already inbuilt those things. We are coming up from the grounds up with those features, right? So that's the main advantage we have. So
Yeah,
the
I think.
mostly others are in a better stage. They are not stable yet, right? But
Yeah.
Polkadot, we are, right? So that's the difference,
I
I
think
think.
Himanshu, that's where you feel the quality of innovators that are involved in the project. They come into play. I mean, I think Germans have always been known for some of the most innovative things. I think the cars that we drive. I think
Right.
I was talking to one of my friends who speaks German, and I was trying to understand from him what is it that is something that I cannot experience in the States. And what he mentioned was exciting. He was like, what you'd see in America is essentially not innovation, it's a port over of innovation in English language which the world understands. And I was blown with that observation that you know Germans or a lot of Europeans are innovating, and these are in local languages, and not ported over to the mass English speaking audience. And I think that's that flavor of innovation and deep rooted, or kind of first principle thinking. You see that in Polkadot.
Right, I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Abhishek, anything to add? I think you have a very different marketeer's perspective. And so I would not like to miss on that in any way, especially when it comes to comparing between, multiple blockchains and how, Polkadot is probably winning or losing at some instances.
Let's not call it losing at all, because the way I was a part of their when they have done that Bangalore event,
I remember
and
that. Yeah.
I happened to be there, and the way they have entered, since you asked me that marketing perspective, the way they have entered, and the kind of space that they have been creating, I happen to speak to almost 10 12 founders there, and post that
Uh-huh.
I've been talking to many founders who are building into a different dapps or a defi projects. And the kind of climate I feel, and the atmosphere around Polkadot is, everybody is gungo about it. They feel that Polkadot is in India to support a lot of dApp. And that was the first day. The second time, when we came across the bootcamp along with the Blockchain India, powered by Polkadot, again, then I saw that, okay, no, it's not the one of the thing that they are doing it here. They are consistently doing something so that they are going to stay here. So they are going to win in a long run. And I believe there are multiple more things that they would be planning, and we would love to be a part of ecosystem, and try to add as much as we can add to the ecosystem of developers, because there are a lot of young people who are getting into it. Polkadot marketing, if you talk to me, I happen to meet to so many people there, and they were taking bites from me. uh, and even I was not aware for what sake, because that was my first visit to Polkadot event. Huh?
Uh-huh.
And from there I saw that, okay, they have their multiple channels through which they are going to use this bytes taken from a different founders, and our journey, our experience, and that's where I felt that, okay, they are doing something marvelous. They are here to stay, and quite excited about how we can work together in the long run.
Hey, not to forget Abhishek, and I know your startup's gonna evolve very quickly. And I can definitely vouch for Reputex because, I think Aditya, you've not shared enough about Reputex. So I'm gonna put you on the spot in a bit, but
Yep.
I think the reputation problem is so core. Even if you see the search engine, it's essentially a recommendation engine, solving the page ranking problem. That's sort of gave light to a lot of what we see today in the internet world, in the centralized internet world, right? But I feel since both the startups are going to grow at a considerable pace, there is a lot of support within the Polkadot ecosystem. There is the Substrate Builders program. The moment you get seriously involved in the Polkadot ecosystem, they are there to support with that. And there are venture funds within the ecosystem that specialize on focusing on supporting businesses within the ecosystem. So I think there's quite a lot to interface with. I think your journey, there's going to be a lot of support throughout. But Aditya, let's learn about Reputex. I'm
For sure.
excited again to hear about it.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I like to start by giving some context. I'll take some inspiration with, the fellow secured app winners over here who mentioned about security thing and how that plays a vital role, right, in being able to onboard the masses. Because
Hmm.
we want a really good system for that, wherein people can feel reassured. If I had to give a brief example, right, like although there are multiple flaws, we can discuss it at length, for hours, which is centralize the system, which we have in a traditional finance. The point that we cannot deny is that it gives a lot of leeway to the user because they share maybe just 10% of the accountability, while the banks and maybe the central banks share the 90% of accountability to make sure that the system works fine. So let's say I have some fraudulent transaction on my credit card, I can report it and have it reversed too, right? Like that accountability exists a lot in the banks, but in Web3, it's a lot of it is pseudonymous, and plus the entire accountability is on you, me as a user. If I interact with a bad wallet or a kind of a malicious link or any kind of any project that is kind of doing social attack, that's on me. That's not on anybody else, right? Like that's the accountability is 100% on me. There's benefits, several benefits to decentralized system. You cannot have large scale $1 trillion corruptions, but at the same time, there are those things that are preventing the mass adoption. One of that problem is this problem of accountability, which is directly related to actually reputation. The moment you start introducing reputation channels wherein there's a metric, you feel empowered, right? Like there's a tool through which you can assess a certain application or entire DAO whether it's authentic. A new application might come out, you might be able to go see the history of the co-founders. Have they been in the ecosystem? Are they brand new? Do they have enough experience? Those are just the beginning pieces, right? And just a small kind of tangential discussion, but if you look at the larger economy in the real world, right, like it's all services based. And services based economy, we have to bring it to Web3 and allow all that happening. Let's say our favorite stable coin, we kind of need to have some system through which I can trust you and you can trust me, and it cannot be
Absolutely.
trustless. There has
Yeah.
to be some metric through which we can assess both. Freelancing is the simplest option, right? Like freelancing allows so many livelihoods to exist. And why should there be certain there are these countries, right? Like I'm not sure if I should mention it or not directly, but there are a lot of countries with a very bad currency, of bad fiat
Yeah.
currency, in which if they get paid, they keep losing. There's a lot of inflation happening in those countries. They lose value of that currency. Why not hold
Yeah.
it in crypto? They can't do it right now because, hey, even if I want to hire that person, I don't know if he'll get the work done. How do I have the trust element? There's no reputation
Yeah.
tracking that. Those are some of the simpler, kind of relatable problems with anyone who's not yet in the Web3 ecosystem. But the folks who are already, I think they know already about the over collateralized loan problem, right? Like if you need to take a loan right now, I might need $1,000 loan, but I need to put a $2,000 collateral, which to a
Yeah.
layman person does not make any sense. The context, of course,
Absolutely.
is a deflationary asset. No one wants to, completely lose their gold. No one wants to sell their gold. They're willing to get a gold loan, but not sell their gold.
Yeah.
There's a reason behind it. Kind of the
Yeah.
same thing with collateralized loan, but we need to change that too. If somebody has a really good credit history, they should be able to take a loan at a discounted rate, or be able to even undercollateralize it. And all that requires to be able to build this credit score, build this reputation score, and these are important. And doing their studio work or services on blockchain itself, and that's going to build like an entire totally game. We'll probably have, like, I'm not sure, just as a, if I had to put out a random idea or like a, you can say, intrusive thought, there might be a parachain kind of dealing with this exact same thing about freelancing, which is using reputation scores, maybe Reputex scores in a very specific manner, completely related to how they've done in their past history and all of that. So that's just the starter part of it for those Web3 detailed folks like who are deep into it. It's all about like
Aditya,
all have
I'm sorry, I was actually losing you, but you're back live, so that's all right.
I think I jinxed my own network, but never mind. But yeah, so just like I was, yeah, talking a little more about Polkadot, right? There's also capability to be able to harness the relay chain, right? The layer zero, kind of being able to harness the governance and security of that. You can actually, that same ecosystem existing, the interoperability, you can harness someone's existing reputation on a different chain and bring it forward in your chain. I'm not sure if that makes, if we had more time, I'd love to go in a detailed
No, I mean
discussion on that.
it makes all. I mean,
Yeah,
CIBIL score
like let's say
exists,
fund a new DAO.
across banks. It's not like,
Yeah,
it
exactly.
exists only in one bank and the other bank cannot use it, right?
Yeah, really well building a reputation in, let's say, a certain place, that should carry forward, right? Like, why do you have resumes if you well in a certain place and try to carry it forward? Done with, when you bring in interoperability into the reputation discussion.
100% Aditya. And I think in the world of pseudonymous actors where, you don't know much about a wallet. And, I was talking
Exactly.
to a friend who is, in one of the, who's one of the co-founders of a prominent layer 2 blockchain. And, he was looking at deploying about $100 million worth of grants back in 2020. And the problem was that he just did not know who to trust within the network to be, given those grants, right? And he could not deploy more than 7-8% of it because those actors were unknown, they had no credit history. And it just seems like a financial world wherein the actor does not have a reputation or a credit score, how would that flourish? So I think it's an important middle layer that, Aditya, you've set upon building. I cannot imagine the leaps and bounds that the ecosystem would rely on once it is live and available to be used within the whole blockchain ecosystem.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what's kind of keeping us motivated.
I'm sure I can see the motivation. Hey, again, I'd love to, I mentioned there were quite a few different kinds of sessions, but I'd love to hear from you which one was your favorite. Right, because I think there were different ones focusing on different things. Was there any particular topic or a particular session that you really liked?
Yeah, I think I just
Right.
briefly touched upon that. Himanshu, go ahead. Yep.
No. Continue, please.
All right. So yeah, I just briefly touched upon that. The one by Sean from Parity Team. I love that because that idea was so new to me that you can upgrade a blockchain. Let's say if consensus reached, a blockchain can be upgraded on the fly. So it's easily that one to me.
Nice. What about you, Himanshu?
Right. So similar. So the thing about parachain, giving the whole overall view of how the whole ecosystem works. We have like there is few limitation, like we can only have right 100 around 100 parachains, but we are upgrading that, and in new future we would be like multiple app chains can we develop over Polkadot. So I
Uh-huh.
think that's the overall holistic view that was the most interesting one for me.
And then the unique auctions and crowd loans mechanism, right? I think that's an interesting one to choose for those 100 parachain slots.
Yeah, definitely interesting that.
Abhishek, any thoughts on that end?
No, I think Himanshu is the right person to answer that, and he answered it.
Okay. So I would
He
take
was the one every
Himanshu,
day. He
but
was the one every day attending the boot camp and learning from and experimenting with the codes.
so you're going to do a lot more magic post the boot camp.
No,
Now.
in fact, I was attending it, but not the way. Like I was a typical, how do we call it, engineer who studies before the night, and then tomorrow morning you have to write your exam.
Hey, those lazy ones are the ones that contribute to most of the innovation.
but
So
but
you
at the
know
same time, we always delivered.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think engineering is more about time management than anything else.
Correct, correct.
Agree.
Yeah, as it is an officially, largely we were a supported program by Polkadot, right? So there were parachain teams that you had access to because of the program, and then you'll continue to have access to them. So any parachain that you're looking to particularly partner with, I remember Abhishek, you mentioned about one of Moonbeam being something that you found exciting.
Absolutely. In fact, we had about 2, 3 rounds of discussion, and it's not only one product of ours. I think we had presented two of. During the course of the action, we were able to build two products. One was obviously on the security side, and the second was mostly around the world's first zero fee asset tokenization platform.
Interesting.
And this is where and this is since we come from a security background, we put that element of security, that okay, any project who is trying to raise via token, are they audited? A, are they weighted? B, is KYC done? So we were able to bring those elements into our product. And only when you click, you have to take, are you done? You have to upload your papers if you are done. Like if you are audited, third party audit report, it could be us also, or it could be from any third party we allow. So this that product is called secure pad. That's almost live. We are at like final stage beta. And when I was talking to Moonbeam, Moid, I believe, we discussed about both the project, and he was quite excited, and he said that, Abhishek, you look very serious when it is about Polkadot and the ecosystem. It's not one of the project that are coming across as like uh, sorry, my daughter is around.
No, no, we love the joy that children bring in. So here it's a family.
So Himanshu, you take it up. So he'll keep crying for some time.
Yeah, so our second product, that's asset tokenization. So we are still working on it, so that allow right now to deploy security or utility token and handle all the services related to a token lifecycle. So once you create it, you can do a pre-ICO or ICO round on the platform. You can stake the token. You can create the staking pools. You can create token lockers. You can airdrop tokens to multiple wallets in one transaction. Also, you can launch it on a dex in just one click, so you don't have to go through each dex and deploy your token onto that for free trading. So that's also, so all the features related to a token, that's in our platform. And we would be moving towards commodity based tokenization. So you talk about real estate tokenization, we talk about multiple any assets you can have. You can have gold, you can have inventory tokenization to raise fund for the whole inventory. And once you get some returns, you can give that 10% ROI or 20% ROI to the token holders in the respective ratio as their token holdings. So yeah, so that's the main idea on our asset tokenization platform.
So,
Hey,
so
hey,
uh,
that's
to
big.
answer your question, so there were two chain, Parachain. One is Moonbeam, which we have already spoken, and there is one more we are talking to. I think let the discussion get formalized a bit, and then we should be able to reveal that. So
Oh,
we
no,
we are
absolutely.
planning to deploy both this product on both the chains.
Hey, we have existing relationship with many of these parachains. So if you need, any help around that end, feel free to reach out.
Absolutely. In fact, I had mentioned this to Mana when Bangalore recently you had one event
Mhm.
in Launchpad, Excel
Mhm.
Launchpad, that we
Mhm.
may need some help and while deploying. So he was quite okay with it. He said anytime,
Hey,
Abhishek.
this is one family for us. I think we strive to support the young guns. We've been successful at getting a $10 billion impact value by producing or supporting teams very early on. CoinDCX, CoinSwitch, Polygon. Nobody knew these are going to be turning and becoming so big, but I think it's because of a very you know strong ecosystem, supportive ecosystem, that these have been able to come about even when the government wasn't supporting the ecosystem. And don't mind me, I'm not so happy with the way the industry has been left behind, specifically because of the lack of understanding, I believe, on the government's part. But I hope that changes. I hope support changes on the government's end. But even without it, we're going to have a supportive ecosystem here in India and thanks to communities, not just Blockchain India, but many others that are in Bangalore, in Hyderabad, Pune, Chennai, everywhere. So I'm excited about where people are leading this revolution. Hey Aditya, would love to learn what is some of the parachains that you're excited to interface with.
I mean, the most popular one, of course, has to be like Moonbeam, because there's so many possibilities already that exist. And to me, I find it a little comfortable because they have a little bit of EVM support. I understand EVM a bit more day, but that's one. My memory actually fails me a little bit, I think, but it was called as Oak Network. I found that interesting because they were very heavy and
Yeah,
focusing on
yeah,
DeFi. So that was one other thing that I was briefly looking into and trying to research and understand, because I felt like over there we can kind of like bring out some of the more DeFi aspects of like the possibility with the reputation scoring, and maybe even the possibility of having these simulation runs when we simulate and see like how if we actually included like a credit score, right, like in a real world setup with people, how that would work, what the bad actors are, the loopholes, how we can fix them, so many things that can be done through that. So those are two paradigms that kind of we were looking at. But like, yeah, ultimately you want to kind of build a little further, understand more about the palettes and like in terms of what we can add, right? Like, because while it's of course upgradable, ultimately you want to make sure that palette is like already in a great position, wherein like when we start discussing with the teams, we already have like the thing that we pride at Reputex is about programmability, like wherein we want to ensure that any given use case, you mentioned NFTs, you mentioned like whether it's DAOs and social impact, or whether it is just the DeFi aspect, we want to be able to program a score that perfectly fits the requirement, and not just program
yeah.
for today, but also keep the options open for the future, because we don't know how the future things are going to definitely change, and we've already seen so much change in the last three
Absolutely.
years. So kind of keeping that in mind, we like kind of
Uh-huh.
have room for that, which is where we are kind of brainstorming things. Sure, we have it at the off chain part, but we want to bring it on chain in a very transparent manner, but at the same time ensure process. But to name a few, those two parachains come to my mind. But let's see, we have access to such a wide network. I'm sure if we like put out a message saying that hey, we want to discuss with any team that's interested, we of course go hunting for the teams, but I'm sure even they'll come out looking for us. That's the best part.
Uh-huh. Absolutely, Aditya. And you then uh, made me curious around some of the next steps in the roadmap for Reputex, and the same question for Himanshu and Abhishek as well. What's in the roadmap for you know each of your businesses? I'd love to learn. Where is it heading from here?
Sure, if that's okay, I'll probably take that. There are stuff that I'm quite excited to discuss and talk about. So,
Good.
some of the stuff that I can mention is, I mean, this idea mostly floats around into the EVM space, the idea of soul-bound tokens. We are
Uh-huh.
kind of thinking about actively about how if we're going to make it happen, let's make it happen on all the different, entire ecosystem, including like Polkadot, wherein we can bring that and possibly make that happen. That's one thing we're looking at, because SBT or the soulbound token, the concept, just to give the audience some more understanding of it, quite literally as the name suggests, it's bound to your the in this case the soul is your wallet, so it's bound to that,
Huh.
where it cannot be
Mhm.
transferred. But we have already developed mechanisms through which it can be updated. So your reputation, as it grows and as it changes, we can update it on the fly, and this can be consumed in a lot of different ways. Perhaps even making it easier for on-chain consumption, because you can just read a particular contract and understand, like access the data from there and all of that. Further, we were also trying to like see how we can bring the EVM and Polkadot systems together. I think DID is one place where we found that there is the scope that exists. So we're actively meddling with DD and decentralized identifiers. We've done some testing with actually the Hypersign team, and we're looking at some other options too. So that's another aspect I think I can mention. The whole, it's about, we're also looking to add more modules. So present, our scoring is quite heavy on the EVM side. We're looking to see how we can meaningfully
Uh-huh.
kind of filter the data on the Polkadot ecosystems. Maybe let's say Moonbeam, right? Like where we start reading the data and how we can kind of categorize it well, and also have a scoring based on the activity there, because that's what starts real kind of meaning in the Polkadot ecosystem. So I think those would be like the brief highlights. There's so much that we can do, but like we kind of putting things in like priority based on like how far we've already come. We want to make the best use of what we've already built and combine it with the the way the use case exists as well as what the future possibilities lie. So yeah.
It's interesting, if I look from a higher level view, there is data science that's being put to use in terms of coming up with these relevant credit scores, or on the other hand, soulbound tokens is something that you mentioned, and then DID, all three differently categorized things, but
Yep.
together all sort of add flavor to the problem statement after. So it's interesting that you're looking at the you know at the whole picture. It's a little abstracted, but honestly, these are the three categories that you need to go after. So the right
Exactly.
focus.
Yeah.
Himanshu and Abhishek, would love to learn about your path forward. Already two products out there. What's next?
Abhishek, you want to take it or I should?
Go ahead, Imanshu. Go ahead.
So, so after finishing our token and all the services related to that, we are targeting the NFT ecosystem. So we would be uh, just not building a NFT whole ecosystem, but also creating practical use cases for it. So let's say a company wants to create memberships into NFT. They want to maybe use NFT as event tickets, or they want to use NFT as for rentals, subscriptions, or anything. Like you have your communication mobile sims, so that's also on chain. So we would be adding multiple practical use cases to our NFT ecosystem. Plus we would also have it as a SaaS model. So if you want a dedicated marketplace, we would have it for you, right? So that's our next step. We are also in our vision, we have our DAO launchpad. So since we already have a token ecosystem, we were directly link that with the DAO. So each token community can manage itself, govern itself with their own dedicated DAO. So that's also in our vision currently. Right. So after that, we want to shift as a global blockchain as a service to provide app chains, dedicated chains for multiple projects. So let's say governments are coming up, so I'm getting queries that can we build our own dedicated chain. They don't want to rely on public chains, and they want a higher TPS, right? So they don't want to go to mempool auction, gas fee. They don't want those complexity. Everyone wants their own app chain. So we would be touching that ecosystem next. So I think that's the long term 1 to 2 year roadmap for us.
That's very exciting. I think I'm excited to definitely look at the kind of this roll up as a service, or app chains as a service model, because I think that's going to be pretty exciting, and I think important for pushing adoption to the next level, because till the time it's super complex to understand how to spin up a blockchain for a use case. I think it's going to be pretty restrictive. But the moment solutions like these come up, I think it just becomes like you have an idea, you can get ahead with it in the blockchain world.
Right. We should provide these Web3 services, in a very simplified manner. The UI UX has to
Mhm.
be much simpler. People don't have to understand the whole complexity, right? So
Uh-huh.
that's our job, to give them in a very simple, smooth form that they can just click and use at the back end. They should not get those what's a MetaMask, what's this, what how to handle private keys, and also those. I don't think those are required on the user side. To expect we can't expect them to understand everything from a normal user, right?
Absolutely.
That's
Abhishek, anything to add there?
I,
But
I'll I'll just add to what Himanshu was saying. Like, while we have a product roadmap, there are two things which is very primary to our business. One
Mhm.
is security is always prominent, and security is something that we will build up. And since we are primarily a security company,
Mhm.
everything that we build, security is one of the feature that we will be adding, and security is going to enable the businesses the way it has been done and seen so far. B, on the secure pad side, which is the tokenization, it is not going to, we are not going to strict it till the security token or a utility token. We are very soon, I think Himanshu mentioned that would be coming up with a real asset tokenization, wherein be it a real estate, or you want to tokenize your gold, or you want to tokenize your wine, whiskey, wristwatches. We are coming up with a one platform, and that is where again we will be plugging in our security, so that only when you are audited, secured, KYC done, you can create all this and get into the marketplace. So in overall business, security is something that is going to stick as a core of our business. And for us, it is, we see as a it as a bread and butter for us. And because everybody in the ecosystem understand that, everybody who is a developer understand the importance of it. It may not be very meaningful for the end user, because they are interacting with a product without even knowing that is it a secured product, is it a audited product. So for end user it doesn't make sense, but whoever, like Aditya is into development, he has a product very similar, into similar category. When we were doing this boot camp, there were about close to 16, 17 projects they were working, and they all understand security. So I do not have to make the end user understand what exactly the security is going to do and how it is going to make their life and asset safe. And developer understand, so we'll stick to that as a core of our business, even in our long run.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be much more than bread and butter. I believe it's also going to be golden wines, in your case. But,
Lovely, Aditya.
but just to, bring things to, everybody loves a little bit of attention. So I'm going to put this and bring some attention back to the boot camp. I know that you guys have gone through that rigorous, first few months with us, but how strongly would you recommend it to any of your friends? I would love to learn it from you. And uh, what are you going to recommend the program highly for, is
Shall,
something that I'd love to learn from each one of you.
Himanshu, Aditya, shall I go first?
Sure, sure.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, having been part of this, there has been a time when we were feeling low. And why I'm bringing this, shall we do that? Shall we continue? Like, you understand, this is the question that comes to every founder, that are we building? Is it meaningful? Shall we do that? And that's where your team, especially your team, and in fact, I had one call with Manav. I don't remember that day. I was in hospital, and from there, I had to demonstrate my beta product to him. That,
I got highlights from that conversation.
let me tell you, that was a trigger. I was so impressed, the way it was handled, and we were encouraged. No, whatever happens, we should continue with our product. And finally, we saw the product taking the shape. All the developers that I spoke within the boot camp and during that period, they all were learning and they all were adding value. In future, I believe whoever is going to be a part of the boot camp, they are going to get highly benefited, not just because from the coding or from the Polkadot, but from the way you, Akshay, and your team, Manav, and I think Harshit was there. So you can understand, I'm able to recall all the names. They all have been part of our journey, pushing us, allowing us to do, getting on call with us, making us understand. So it is good place to learn, code, experiment, and deliver. If at all you fail, I don't think there is any question. Like, you are not put into a light. Like, winners are put into spotlight, but not the. If you have not done, there is no question. Like, you should not shy away from trying your hand into these kind of boot camp. So definitely recommend to the fellow founders and whoever comes close to us for this kind of discussion.
Abhishek, so one of the things we say to each other in the morning, and this is kind of like a part of our larger credo, is fail and fail until you succeed. Right? Every day you're going to do 100 things, and 99 of them do not have to succeed. There just has to be one thing right, and right to the extent that it will satisfy all your goals, right? And I think what you're building is that one right thing. So I do not feel you're going to have a lot of lows, but when you do, make sure that you give us a call. I've had the highlight of that conversation because these mean a lot to us. I remember a time in 2019 when we had the banking ban on crypto companies in India. And all of the startup founders, and I'd invested in 31 startups by then, my personal money. And six of them died because there was no support. You could not use and operate a bank here. And we realized that we don't need much, but that grit. Because in a month's time we were able to figure out how to get the banks to support us in another country. And from then onwards all of the industry kickstarted again, because I remember at that time there was a batch of 21 startups that together opted for that banking service, right? So we've gone through those existential crisis kind of standpoints, right? The whole industry, not just us. So I think there's a lot of great just in the core, I think, being of every founder here, and you showcase that brilliantly. So I have high hopes for where you're going,
Thank you.
Himanshu. And your partner, I guess I said a lot about him, but would love to hear your experience as well, and your thoughts about the program.
Right. I think if you want to, enter into the ecosystem, or start working on it, bootcamp is the best place. You get mentors, you get the experts' opinion, you get all the doubts clear, you get hands-on coding, right? You get a structure curriculum of the overall what you need to learn, right? What's the steps? So I
Mhm.
think that the best place to start with, and I would definitely recommend anyone to start with a blockchain also, to
Mhm.
just enter into a bootcamp.
Mhm.
Polkadot or any. So bootcamp are the best place to start, I think.
Lovely to hear, Imanshu. I think that gives us a lot of confidence. Aditya, what was your experience like? Would you recommend this to your friends?
Absolutely. I mean, there are so glad Abhishek kind of touched upon there are lows. If I'm being honest, like while I loved kind of grinding out and doing the hard work, there are definitely at times wherein you're just like so kind of defeated because you've tried multiple attempts. Thing with like I'm sure like any developer would relate, any debugging session, right? They're the worst. They're the horrendous things, like especially when you
Yeah.
have no idea what's going on and you're just trying to figure out. It's like 10 times when you're trying to the same thing kind of magnify 10 times when you're trying to learn about some new ecosystem, new kind of tech stack, how all of it is built. Point I'm kind of trying to get at is there are moments where you feel like, dude, I just want to quit. That happen a lot more if you do not have any accountability. When you're in part of some boot camp, there is a sense of like, hey, I am responsible here, and I need to like make sure that I am committed to it. Like especially if somebody has been, I'm sure that I know a lot of friends who interested in blockchain but never do anything about it. Just it stops that I'm interested. It doesn't go beyond that. Like this is kind of like that thing through a boot camp where it can go beyond, because once you endure it, that's it. Like there are 60 days where you get to learn every single day. You're a part of it. You're making a commitment essentially, and you're making commitment for yourself, wherein you kind of take that challenge up that hey, I'm going to learn this. I want to do this, and it's the best way to kind of get kick started. There will be challenges, no doubt. I mean, I'm not sure if I should put it forward this way, but previously I feel like with web3 we've had a toxic relationship with complexity, wherein we've built made things quite complex thus far. But I feel like everyone has identified this in this bearish market. Everyone is looking to simplify it, make sure the user adoption for the masses is kind of the key focus. So things are definitely getting easier. There are a lot more resources available today than let's say just a few years back, like 1 or 2 years back, and bootcamp amplifies that even further. So there's a lot of opportunity for everyone to get started. It's never too late. Now time everyone is focusing building for real applications, not just adding complexity over complexity. I think that has kind of we've seen that kind of on the decline and on the rise, basically, where we're trying to build for utility. That's the key word I feel like right now these late times. So like I said, commitment, and you kind of grind it out, stick to your community. When there's people that can talk to, it helps. So yeah.
Hey, Aditya, I think you touched upon wonderful points. I think, building in, together has a lot of advantage. And when you have a structure in place and, a curriculum in place, I think it solves for a lot of things, especially because everyone's going through the same things together, right? And I think a part of our job is easier because there's just such great energy, and, there's just such community kind of building that happens together, that everybody is supporting everybody else, right? So that is something we thought about when we were structuring this program for the first time back in 2020. And I'm glad to see that there are wonderful participants like you all. So thanks for your participation, thanks for the word of confidence, and again, thanks for taking out the time. I believe today was all about you all, but I think so was the last 60 days.
Yeah, thanks Akshay for like being such a wonderful host. And I think like we had a great time kind of like conversing about it. Although I feel like my network gave up on me every now and then, but I still enjoy like the way you kind of like conduct the session. At the same time, kudos to you and Mana for the wonderfully constructed boot camp, and everybody else involved who kind of ensured that every week happens exactly as it's planned, which is a difficult task to do. Like, and definitely it's much appreciated.
Thanks, Aditya. Thanks a lot. And thanks, Himanshu and Abhishek, for the wonderful work and hustle you put together, and obviously the words of appreciation that you shared.
Thanks, Akshay. I would like to conclude by saying that it was a wonderful, and not only to the limit that we learned and we delivered. It is wonderful because we get a chance to talk to blockchain India community. We got a chance to talk to Polkadot community, and that's where I feel that all of you are doing a wonderful job. All small projects like us need a lot of push, and I think I had mentioned this to Manav also once, that we may need a push. We may need a platform to showcase our project, and all of you are doing it quite wonderfully, so I would like to say thank you. And it was a very good session. Thanks, Aditya. First time we are on a same call, and thanks to Himanshu.
Yeah, yeah.
What, Himanshu?
Thanks, Akshay,
Thanks,
and
Akshay.
the whole Polkadot team for organizing the boot camp. We learn a lot, we work a lot on it, and looking forward to work again, and building some awesome products on it. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys. So I think each and everyone that and especially these wonderful stars that were there, throughout the days, were an inspiration for rest of the participants, but also for us. I think they kept us excited through everything. But I want to thank you all, because I think for it is for you all, and your continuous support that Blockchain India has always been able to push forward in the right direction. And especially we become active during the downturns or the bear runs or the less active times, because that is when entrepreneurs need our support, that is when the community needs our support, right? So if you are feeling that you need to be a part of something that's energetic, exciting, and puts you back on track in your entrepreneurship journey, or if you're looking to get more involved in the blockchain space, I think the 60 days of code is a great place to be a part of. Again, this boot camp was possible because of Polkadot and their support. So I'm very, very thankful to everyone in the Polkadot ecosystem, the Web3 Foundation, Parity. Special thanks to Surag for helping us through the process, William for looking at startups, and each of these projects in a very credible way. And there's Urban, there is a lot many other actors in the Polkadot ecosystem that are so warm, and I think that is important to grow. So thanks a lot to the whole Polkadot ecosystem, and I believe this session sort of gave you an insight into what we were doing for the last 2 odd months. Thanks a lot for joining in. That's my time. I hope you all take care of yourselves.